in your wall or where it is?
Everywhere. The YouTubes, on the Facebook platforms, YouTube, Twitter. Okay, so you're live. It's on my page. It's on Soulogy One Studios. It's on Soulogy Group. It's on YouTube, Soulogy One Studios. It's on, all right, so let me come bring you back here. And I'm going to go ahead and for safety, for backup, I'm going to record on the cloud. And you're ready in 3, 2, 1. Have a nice show, ladies. Oh, I'm going to make you host.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Perfect. I just share it in my wall, and in case you want to share it too, Tanys.
Yeah.
Welcome, 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 everybody. This is Monica Ramirez, the Warrior of Love, and we are not only in Soul Talk, we are on Soulogy, and you can find us also not only live in soulogynetwork.com. And we have a very special person for me. This is one of my dearest friends that I really love. This woman is being so much support and help through all this process of ascension and growing and expanding. Tanys, her last name, I hope I say it right. Remember that my first language is Spanish. Coughlan.
Coughlan, yeah. Coughlan.
I did it right.
Thank you so much for having me today, Monica.
Oh my God, it's
such an honor.
I love to have these conversations with you. And today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite themes. But let me explain you a little bit who is Tanys to everybody. Tanys is, I'm just going to give a brief explanation. She's a founder of Twilo Lifestyle Community and Twilo Lifestyle Academy. She's an international teacher and speaker. She's registered Reiki master and intuitive healer. She receives, she's also a Celtic shamanic high priestess and crystal masters that she did a few years of certification. She's a finalist. She's a woman. She's a finalist in the Women's Businesswoman's Award, and also it is also what we're going to be talking today. She's a galactic ambassador of the Alliance of Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Contact. Tanys,
yes,
you've always been so fascinating woman, and I love our conversations because I learn so much from you.
Well, as I do from you, Monica. We all learn from each other.
Yes, we do. And tell us a little bit about what I took you where you are, because right now we're not only in Soul Talk, we are in Soulogy Network, and many people do not know you as well, or have heard you before. So tell us a little bit, how it took you where you are now.
Well, I spent 20 years in home healthcare. Originally, that was my first career, starting in the field and ended up in management. Got my HR management certification, and I ended up with 2 burnouts being in management, and decided, okay, that's not working for me. Obviously, I need to do something else. So I ended up with the opportunity to be in the Ontario Self-Employment Benefit Program, which was a program that helped support us and give us classes and stuff to be an entrepreneur. I never thought I would be an entrepreneur, but here I am now running 3 businesses. So this was, I guess, about 8 years ago. I had started doing Reiki during my management days because I was getting burnt out and I was looking for a solution to kind of help me get through. And so I went and had my first Reiki session, and I had never felt so good. I was like, okay, I need to learn how to do this. So I started my training. It's probably been over a decade now that I started my training. And so I've been doing energy healing for that long. Definitely done it in other lifetimes, of course, as well. But definitely for this lifetime, that was probably it. And let's see. Then what did I do?
But it took you to be a Celtic shamanic high priestess, because
yeah. So the Celtic shamanic high priestess, I found this school that had that as one of their programs, and I was very drawn to it. So I started taking the classes, and so basically a Celtic shamanic high priestess is a Celtic shaman and a Wiccan high priestess. So it combines a bunch of healing stuff, journey work, all of that kind of thing, as well as ceremonial healing stuff. And so there's a lot of ceremony involved, and so I can do ceremonies and whatnot, as well as various healings. My work with that school ended up expanding as well, because I learned there was like 3 pillars of knowledge in the school. So one of them was the Celtic shamanic high priestess pillar. Another one was a healer pillar, and the other one was ceremonial. And so I took pieces of all of them, got the full year and a day, because it's a year and a day program for the Celtic shamanic high priestess, and did a bunch of the healing work as well. So got like through the level 1 for that, and did a bunch of stuff for the ceremonial, worked my way up through that. So I've ended up with quite a broad variety of healing modalities that I bring into my sessions. Since then, I ended up getting a download. One morning I woke up and I felt like my crown chakra had been burned. It was kind of funny. So I ended up doing a Reiki session on someone that day or the next day, and my hands felt different than just Reiki. And it was almost like a kinetic feeling. And I was like, am I broken? Like, what's going on?
I know that sensation.
And fortunately, it was a friend. So
Unfortunately, it was kind of burning, but for me, it was freezing.
when I do the Nukti on you?
No. When I started doing the Reiki in my practice, my hand,
Yeah.
it was putting nitrogen.
Oh,
I couldn't even move it. It was exactly the contrary.
yes. Well, it's all how we experience it, right? It's just like that higher vibration. And so each of us experience vibration in a different way. So, like I know some people experience archangels as super hot. For me, they come in and it's like freezing cold when I feel them. And so it's the same sort of thing when we deal with energy healing too, right? It's all different depending. So I finished this session on my friend, and she sits up and she goes, "Whoa, that was intense." I said, "I know, I might be broken." And she's like, no, it was amazing. And I'm like, whew, thank goodness. Okay. So then I go to a friend of mine and we're doing a soul retrieval share, and it starts. So I'm like, what is this? And he's like, ooh, what is that? And so he's an angel communicator. He checks in and he's like, oh, that's a new energy you're bringing to the earth. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that? It didn't come with a manual. What am I supposed to do with that? He's like, here, and he hands me a paper and pen and says, go write. And I'm like, okay. So I had been in the channeling space already because of what we were doing. I went down to my car, sat down. All of a sudden I had 5 pages about a new healing modality named Nukti. And I asked them for an English name and was given grief relief. So Nukti is a galactic healing modality that heals grief at a cellular level. So it reprograms the cytoplasm within the cell to release the frequency of grief and trauma so that it can hold the frequency of love. So it's impactful. So I had that, and then I just used it for about 1.5 years. During that time, I had an experience where I was sitting watching a show, Interviews with Ed on Gaia, and it was Adam Apollo on there. And he was talking about being a galactic ambassador. Anyway, there was some reason that I was totally focused on this show. I couldn't stop watching it. And I had to actually stop because I'm an HR consultant as well. So I had to go and do an interview for a client. And then I ran back. And as I ran back and I sat down, all of a sudden the room filled up with my galactic guides. And I'm like, hey, what's going on, guys? What are you doing here? And they're like, are you ready? Are you ready? I'm like, okay. They're my guides, right? I trust them. And then they all were sending all this love at me, and I'm sitting in my basement crying because of the love being so much, and it was beautiful. Anyway, afterwards I said, excuse me, what did I agree to?
Yes.
And I was told the Galactic Ambassador. And so fast forward a little bit, I get to teaching Nukti for the first time. And it was basically at the break, I was told I needed to go and do this mudra by a friend of mine who was in the class. So I do this mudra, I close my eyes, and next thing I know, I'm standing in front of Commander Ashtar Sheeran of the Galactic Federation. And he goes like this. And so I automatically go down on one knee. I don't know why, just because I just know. And he does like this knighting ceremony thing with this staff of metal that I'm not familiar with. And then he stands me up and he puts his hand on my chest, on my heart, and says, "You are now one of us." And I am again being showered by all of this love because there's all these other beings behind me. And I'm sitting here, of course, it's my consciousness that's doing all of this. And I'm sitting here crying, and my students are back on the screen. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'll be right back. I'll let you know what's happening when I come back. Anyway, it turns out that that was like the initiation into Galactic Ambassador, Galactic Teacher for me. And so then fast forward a little bit again, and I end up meeting Sylvain, who is with the Alliance for Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Contact. And I tell him my story, and he invites me to be involved. I start working with them. The first meeting, he says, "So I think we're all Galactic Ambassadors." And so I became a Galactic Ambassador in the 3D as well. So I'm a Galactic Ambassador.
Wow. I remember after I became also the Galactic Ambassador, and we had that experience. I thought nothing is gonna happen. Maybe they might come, they may show up, and maybe we have conversations, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's been expanding and downloads, and it's been, my conscience is like going like in waves and expand. Every time it goes a wave and expands, and I understanding different things. But I came to understand something that you will understand, you know very well about the laws of Hermes history. That about what is the vibration is how it's going to go up. Also, the other side is going to go up.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the law of vibration and then the law also of balance.
Polarity, yeah.
So there's also understanding that what I am embodying and myself, my higher self, is being way, way bigger than even I was expecting it. But at the same time, for law of balance, I am receiving the backslash of that, and more in this month, in the month of October. And that's where I wanted to ask you about, because as channelers, as we communicate with them and we're in constant contact with them, with our galactic family and the galactics and so forth, many people is not aware that in this month is a very strong month. And beside of the eclipse that we're having, the full moon and all this kind of stuff that is happening in this month. That is
like tomorrow, guys. Just
yes, this, and we're going to see it from, at least from McAllen, Texas, where I am. That is going to be awesome. But the energies are also very strong in the polarities and two sides.
They are.
Have you received any intel about that?
Well, I'm being told a lot of it is collective energies for those of us on Earth, right? We've got a lot of political stuff happening with a lot of unrest over in Europe and stuff. And with all of that comes a lot of fear, grief, devastation. We've had, it's interesting because the world disasters that we've had as well, the flooding and the fires and the tornadoes and hurricanes and
the war with Israel and Palestine.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
There's just been so much loss of life in the last month on the Earth. And, we're all connected. So we feel that. And that's, it's just part of where we're at. And so the best thing we can do is send out love and light to all of those affected. It's a lot for everybody. And I can't even begin to understand what everyone's going through. But that is the heaviness that we're feeling.
And at the same time, some people were getting like an update or an upgrade. I don't know how to call it, which one of those upgrades.
An upgrade, yeah. Yeah, we're getting our DNA upgraded as well, right? So as we get our DNA upgraded, the galactics are playing a role in some of that. And that's been going on for a while, and they have to do it slowly. But we've had a big jump in it because they're trying to sort of speed up the timeline a little bit. So we've had this jump in our frequency of downloads, we'll say, to have the upgrades happen faster.
Yes. I have at least 2 weeks at 3 o'clock in the morning. They wake me up and like, can you find another hour, please, to do this?
Yes. That's the bewitching hour, though.
I know.
That's when the veils are the thinnest.
I know. It's I've been talking to them, please do it on different hour, but no, apparently that's the time when they do it more often.
Yeah. It's been like that forever. There are council meetings that happen at the Ascended Masters dimension, and some that happen with the galactic councils. They all happen around that time, because oftentimes we could be on councils and not know it, and we sleep through it, right? Because we do astral travel at night. We all do. So oftentimes we go and we do work in our dream time. And sometimes that involves going to these meetings or getting upgrades, going to med beds in the ships, any of those kinds of things we do during our dream time, and we don't know.
Something that I've been noticing, that this is not only in our expansion of our conscience, it is also being reflected in our own physical body.
Yes.
That's something that I've been noticing that. And have you noticed from other people talking about this, or from your clients? I know in yourself you noticed it.
Yeah.
It's happening to you.
So I found overall people are much more tired.
Mhm.
If there's any aches and pains that you had that were minor, they're sort of larger at the moment because we're running a lot more energy. And the whole concept is that the more energy we bring in, the less room there is for the denser energy to hang out, right? The higher vibration energy, we bring that in, there's no room for the dense energy. So it has to come out, which means it has to get noticed. So if we are holding on to dense energy somewhere in our body, that energy comes in and it has to get noticed before it can be released. So if we notice it, we need to release it. But how do we do that? Depends on the person, what their beliefs are, how they go forward in order to release the energy.
And not only that, I'm going to talk about something personal, as that people around me, they've been noticing that even my daughter, they tell me, Mom, please do not move your head like this, basically like this. And like, why? Because I'm not seeing a human. I don't know in what moment, what going the head like this, specifically, she's telling me, like, I'm not seeing a human. And it happened with other people.
Mm-hmm.
It's been happening with more people, more and more people. And the problem is, my daughter knows me, and she knows that I'm not going to harm, even if I convert completely blue, But those people don't. So they're scared of that. And I know, because we're all one, how it's happening to me, it is happening to other people too. Am I right?
There's an internal change. Whether we're all going to turn into blue Pleiadians, I'm not sure. I think there are two components to this. I think one is that our perception around all of this stuff is changing. And so, our consciousness is incredibly powerful. So what we believe will come about, good or bad, whatever we believe it's going to come about. So we need to really sort of watch where our thoughts go, because we control our reality. Okay. The other thing that's happening is because all of this disclosure stuff is coming out, which is good, but it creates, oh, interesting. Sorry, they're talking to me at the same time. It creates, what they're saying is thought forms. So thought forms create a different entity, a different reality. It's a thought that gets repeated on it over and over that becomes a being of its own. It has its own consciousness. So sometimes that can create, like a film in front of you, like it's almost a lens, depending on what it is, right? The other thing that's happening is that people's visuals, third eye is opening.
Yeah.
So people are seeing us in different ways, right? All of a sudden people look a little different. They look a little blue, or they look a little brighter, or, something,
I was, after I started observing all this, I saw a video of Bashar, and I saw not a human. I was seeing a kind of a grayish humanoid.
Yeah.
And my mind was like, no, that's Paul Anka, no, Paul Anka. And it was like,
Daryl Anka. Yeah.
Your uncle, yes, you're right.
Paul Anka's the singer, but he's good too.
But I was seeing him, and it was like, it doesn't look like him.
Right.
It looks Bashar. And the same applied for Wendy Kennedy. It was the same thing. She is from, she channels the collective of Pleiadians. It was the same thing. And I was like, okay, I'm observing then what everybody's observing. And more, I believe the channelers, because sometimes they just channel through us. It's like they just come in and give the message.
Yes. That's the other thing it could be. So there's many different aspects to this, right? We are multidimensional beings. So it depends which aspect we're looking at, what's going to be created. So that is probably the most obvious one, is when we channel, we actually get overshadowed by another being. And in doing that, it is possible that if we have more people with their third eye open, that they're starting to see that overshadowing. And some of us are channeling a lot. It becomes almost a regular thing for us. And so we could be just having lunch and be channeling because we're channeling energy into the earth at that moment, or, we're putting off a signal that needs to happen, or we're receiving a key, a master key or whatever, right? And so, or dealing with stuff in the upper dimensions, because I often describe it like, so let's talk about the galactics and their frequencies and stuff first, because I think that's important before I go into this other piece, is that the galactic beings are interdimensional, most of them. Okay, there are physical forms of them, and they can adjust their vibrational frequency to be more physical. But in general, they can appear to us as interdimensional beings. Okay, so what this means is when we, our usual visual range is here, okay? When we start to raise our vibration, this range starts to do this. Okay, so all of a sudden, instead of only seeing what's in this range, there's all this other stuff we start to see. So as we start to see this, we're like, oh, who's that blue being over there? Who's that? Right? We start to see different nuances that have always been here. There's really no change. It's always like that. We're seeing different layers of beingness, is the word they're using, which is interesting. So they gave me like a linear example of how we can sort of explain what dimensions are. Really, the dimensions are different frequencies, and they're all these different things, okay? if we want to understand the concept of being a multidimensional being, we can look at it like this. There's a glass office building with an open elevator shaft. The whole thing is glass, and you're able to access right through the elevator shaft. There's no doors or anything. Primarily, our consciousness would be at the 3D level because we are physical.
Mm-hmm.
We are multidimensional beings. We may have some in the 4th dimension, in the 5th dimension, in the 6th, all the way up to 12. Okay. We could have pieces of our consciousness that go all the way up to the 12th dimension.
Mm-hmm.
We have to have majority, especially if we're awake, we have to have majority of us in that 3D level, 3 to 4. We can manage at 4. So most of us are like kind of in that 4D level now. But in saying that, we can be doing work in the other levels. So what they're saying to me right now is sometimes when people are seeing you as somebody else or as something else, that it's because you're actually doing some work in some of these other levels. And so you've got help in the physical level. That the alien is maybe helping you in the physical level while you're off doing other stuff. Or maybe they're doing some teaching in the other dimensions. So they've come in to help make sure that everything's running smoothly for you here. Interesting. Thank you.
That's what I was talking about, expanding the conscience.
Yes.
Because now it's more noticeable what my other aspects at the same time are feeling and or working on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, I'm just typing something, and why I'm feeling this sensation that I'm doing this or working on something very different, like cooking when I'm in the computer behind my desk.
Yeah.
And or feeding or teaching or doing, and it's like, I'm not doing nothing of that. I'm behind my computer, it's like, oh, and I feel myself completely doing those things. At the same time, I'm behind my desk and computer.
Yeah, it's the consciousness going out to do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So these other floors are not really other floors, they're all around us. So we can send our consciousness out to do stuff, and that's bilocating. That's the beginning of doing bilocating. So bilocating is actually being in 2 different places at the same time. There are actually, I've heard stories of people who can actually be like this one guy that I heard, he's a teacher and a speaker, and he was speaking like in the States, and he was teaching a class in England all at the same time, because he was able to bilocate in that way. So as we become higher frequency beings, we're able to do that a little bit more, and we start to be more comfortable in the higher frequencies. So when we switch our brainwave frequencies and go into that meditative state, that's when we start to be able to tap into what's happening in these other things. So normally what we would do is go into a meditative state and then go and do stuff and then come back into our body, right? Now what's happening is I think that the whole vibration is rising to a point that we don't have to necessarily be with our eyes closed in the state to be able to reach that level of doingness is what I'm getting. So the fact that the vibration of the earth is raising allows us the opportunity to be more cognizant of what we're doing. So those 3 o'clock in the morning meetings that I was talking about, that we're not always conscious of being, we're becoming more conscious that we're there. Or we're becoming more conscious that we're doing healing work. Or I do house clearings all over the world just from sitting here, so I can be more conscious about sending my consciousness over, into the UK to do a house clearing and then coming back. It's just that it's facilitating that kind of conscious connection in a different way with the energies the way they are right now.
I do agree. It feels, we're working mainly 24 hours a day or learning.
Pretty much.
Yes, and if we're
It's
tired.
exhausting, guys, I'm telling you.
And if we're tired, this is why we're tired.
That's why self-care is so important, though, for everybody, right? We have to make sure we're taking care of the physical body, because we are here to have a physical experience. We're here to experience all the gamut of emotions. It is what it's like to be human. all of the physical experiences it's like to be human, like all of that stuff. That's the reason we're here.
I love how you explain about the different dimensions that we're living. How I observe, and that was my next question for you, was that I know there's beings in this planet, humans, that are having experience of 3D completely. The people are, right now, we can see it in all the conflicts that we're seeing around the world.
Yeah.
They're in that conscience. So the life experience in the 3D, it is there. But there are other beings that we're experiencing, traveling in the dimensions or having meetings or healings around different planets, not only in Earth.
Yeah.
We're living a very different experience of life, the other beings. And we're only living in the same planet.
Yep. You have to understand, we've had other beings doing this on our planet
Yes.
for centuries.
Yes.
We don't see them, but they see us.
Yeah.
They're conscious of us, but they've been around us all this time. Just they're in a higher dimensional frequency.
Yes. They can see us when they're in a higher dimension, but from lower dimension going seeing up, it is like exactly.
Yeah.
But from higher dimensions, they can see us.
Well, even if you're in a higher dimensional frequency or we're in a higher vibrational rate, we can lower our rate easily.
Yeah.
To come down and meet people where they're at. Right. If we are a lower vibration, it takes work to raise the vibration. Right.
What advice you would give to anyone that is listening and seeing to maintain a 5D integrity in your vibration? Because we're all emotional. We're still having a human experience at the same. So we're going to go through emotions.
Exactly.
And those are the ones that sometimes bring us down in our vibration.
Yeah.
So how we can maintain the vibration at the same level all the time. So like that, it is more constant and less bipolar. We're conscious.
I think that we're going to have that up and down, like you said, right? Because we are all connected and we're going to feel it. I think the best way is really doing the self-care. So our vibrational frequency ranges between like 63 and 78 megahertz overall. Okay, the average adult. When we have a negative thought, it brings it down by 12. We have a positive thought, it brings it up by 10. So we need to maintain that healthy vibrational frequency for our health, for our mental health, for all of that. In order to do that, we need to make sure we're doing things like meditation, which brings it up by 25. Okay, eating well, making sure the energy is moving through breathing exercises, through physical exercises, through energy healing stuff, making sure the energy is moving through us. And using tools like crystals and essential oils.
But that at the same time will avoid us to do the inner work, because if we just love and light, love and light, love and light. So I want to be right here. We are not in our physical body. We are not doing the inner work. That through all those emotions that we need to release, and they're stuck in there.
Yes. So that's the other piece. That's that shadow work. And that is going in. And so in our society, we've all been taught to push down dense energy, right? Push down those emotions. You don't need to express those. Push them down. So we push them down and we push them down some more. And then usually what happens is all of a sudden we can't hold it anymore. It's like a bucket, right? You keep putting stuff in the bucket. All of a sudden it's at the top. One drop overflows the bucket. So usually that's what happens with a lot of people. They're pushing in the anger, and then they explode and they're like really furious, right? Or they're pushing down the grief and all of a sudden they start crying and they can't stop for a long time. And it's because they have to express, they have to feel the emotions. So what people are really what we're encouraging people to do is go in and a little bit at a time start to excavate that dense energy that they've pushed down. Start to bring in some light and excavate the dark energy, the denser energies that they've pushed down. And as you do that, you become more filled with light because you're releasing the denser energies, right? And when you put more light in, the dense energy has to come out somehow. So how is that going to come out? Well, we need to express and we need to release. And so, any of the bodily functions will do that. The crying, the yawning, the burping, the flatulence, the activity can help run it through, right? You can even do things like toning or breathing exercises because you're releasing. All of that stuff helps you to release energy. So you may notice that people are expressing more emotion. That's because they've gotten to this last drop in their bucket because they've been pushing down for years, and that's our programming. Nobody's at fault for this. Everybody does it to a certain extent because that's how we've been programmed. That's what society has taught us to do.
Because it feels uncomfortable, painful, and all those memories or trauma that is just going up. Like, let me hide it. I don't want to. I am in a reunion. I don't want to start crying in front of everybody because someone made me react.
Yeah.
So
when you start to do that work and you start to excavate those things, you find it a lot easier to control when you're out, because no longer are you at the top of this bucket. You start to empty the bucket and empty the bucket. So if you get some in there, you can respond in the situation instead of react, which is a lot more socially acceptable. So really, people feel uncomfortable to cry in a session or something, but really it's a great controlled environment to release all that energy. The other thing I find is we have to keep in mind when we're doing all of this that we need to look at all three aspects of self, right? We have our physical body that requires attention. We have our mental emotional body that requires attention. And we have our spiritual energetic body that requires attention. And so I always say this, I'm never going to be an energy healer that says energy can heal everything. It certainly has an effect on everything. But there are things that we need to do to address all three of those. So when somebody comes to me with trauma, for instance, I'm going to be like, okay, so have you seen a psychologist or a counselor? Because that's the mental emotional body. What are you doing to de-stress? Are you going for walks? Are you doing breathing? Something to help with the physical aspect of the stress of what you're going through. And then the energy can be released as well. Right. So we hold on to those dense pockets. We have layers in our energy field, and we get dense pockets stuck in those layers. So what we do is we release that out of the layers, the energy field, so you're no longer carrying it. And so that is part of that healing process as well. So when we can get through some of that, it allows us to raise the vibration. And
the moment we go down, but we are going to go up. So
exactly,
we're scared to actually confront our own shadows.
Yeah. Because once we get to that higher point, that piece where we're more, I'm going to use the term enlightened for lack of a better word at the moment, but where we're more in a higher vibrational frequency, it's a range. So we do this all day. If you think that one thought brings it up and down, we're going to do this all day because we have all sorts of thoughts. We have all sorts of things talking to us and coming at us all day, every day.
And that goes exactly like nature. You don't see the sea. We have waves. Everything is a wave. It goes up and down, and that's what it is. We are part of the same nature.
Look how much water we have in us.
Exactly.
80% water.
Exactly. And my question is, many people have asked me about because I have met more people that are ambassadors of the galactics, and now it's becoming more and more, and it's like from a big world that it is, how I'm finding them,
But we're led to them, right?
But I'm noticing that there's more people getting involved in that. What is in reality well, I know the role, but I would like you to you say it. What is the role of the ambassador of the galactics?
Well, I think it has multiple aspects to it. I think the biggest one is to create awareness so that there's less fear when disclosure does happen. That's kind of the overarching thing, right? Come down, create some awareness without being in your face about it. Subtle awareness. And then being able to bring through messaging and stuff of them. So I guess having said that, I guess what I should do is give you an example that happened to me last summer. So after I went through all that stuff and became the ambassador, I was sitting in my sunroom and I had just finished doing a class in channeling. So I was in my higher vibrational state. And I'm sitting there and I hear, excuse me, in my head. And I'm like, and I look around and I look outside. And keep in mind, folks, this is not 3D. Okay. It's in the 5D, or it was actually like 7D. So very high frequency. It's not something that you would see every day. There was a praying mantis being standing in my backyard. I've never seen one. So I was like, Archangel Michael, can you come with me?
Because they're huge. They're super tall.
Yeah, they're like 7-8 feet, right? And they do look like our praying mantis here. So part of what he came down, I went out to see him and he's like, we understand you're a galactic ambassador. And I'm like, apparently, yes. And he's like, we would like you to please pass on the message that not all insecticides are nefarious. We are here to help and support. And I said, okay, I can do that. And he does this and says, thank you. And then he turns around and wanders off to the back where there's 5 of his friends. So this whole delegation arrived here. And so, again, keep in mind, this is my third eye working, okay? We're not talking physical here. This is energetic. It's like how I see the guides and all that stuff. So it was fascinating. So this is how we get a lot of information, right? Those of us that are able to see stuff, it can come through either in our third eye or out there, which is just your external clairvoyance. So there's internal clairvoyance and there's external clairvoyance. I tend to use a combination depending on the situation. And so.
And you never know which one is going to get online at the same time.
And sometimes it's both.
I go to bed, I close my eyes and like, oh, let me get up.
Yeah, exactly.
So you never know which one is. But I feel right now in this moment, in this time, there's gonna be way more of that because, like you mentioned about the disclosure, and I feel that the disclosure might not be completely from the gonna arrive to the governments. That is gonna be the last part that is gonna arrive. It is happening right now to the common normal human beings that we are here. That is already happening.
Yeah.
Slowly. Some of them are reacting poorly. Some of them are reacting, like, yes, let's have this conversation and I have tons of questions.
Yeah.
But everybody's going to react depending on whatever shadows they have inside of them.
Mm-hmm. What is their programming, right? Yes. What has Hollywood put in our head about it? What have the I'm going to say governments, but I'm using that term loosely in this case, the powers that be, shall we say, what have they put forward as what it is? Like, all of these things create expectations about what we can expect for this kind of experience. But I don't think that any of us really know exactly what to expect when they actually show themselves here. I think that that's going to be a very unique experience for all of us. They are full of love. So I don't anticipate, if you are open-minded, that it will be a scary thing. They're not here to hurt us. If they were going to hurt us, they've got way better technology than we do. If they were going to hurt us, we wouldn't be here. Right? We're here. So
I do agree with you, but I do see coming, or I've been receiving visions about that not later than 10 years, we're going to have a very different planet that it is right now.
Yeah, that is the messages that I've been getting as well.
So more that we reject other races of humans, we're going to have it harder because we're going to be, right now you go to the supermarket and you find different races in the supermarket. But now imagine that you're going to find grays, you're going to find Pleiades, you're going to find Arcturians, you're going to find Sirians, you're going to find Lyrians, you're going to find different beings around us.
Even praying mantis.
Yeah, even praying mantis that are very impressive, but also the Lyrians too,
Mhm.
the cat people. So that is how it's gonna, how we can help and support more the humanity, so we can be more accepting when we haven't not even completely accepted the whole humanity, the different races that we have here. That's the part I don't click in my head.
This is part of why all this stuff is coming to the surface. So we've had a lot of political angst about differences within society. No matter what those differences are, there's a lot of underlying angst about differences, a lot of judgment that happens. This is one of those dense things that we've pushed down, and it's been underneath for a long time. You'll notice in the last few years that that sort of thing has been coming to the surface, right? The Me Too movement, Black Lives Matter, all of those kinds of things. There's more wars over religion. All of these things that separate us are coming to the surface to say, okay, this is a thing. We need to clear this.
Yeah.
This is why it seems like there's so much of that right now. Much like the human body, when we do an energy healing, when we want to bring in more light, we have to excavate those emotions. We have to pull that out and say, look at it and go, that's not so good. I don't think I want to do that anymore. Let's get rid of that.
And not because we, by generations, we've been taught what to hate or not to hate, or what to accept or not to accept. That means that we have to do that in ourselves and the future generations to come.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
or
why
we can lead by example.
Yes. And that's why it's important to do the inner work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I believe our community, or the spiritual community, is struggling, because they just wanted to be in the higher vibrations, love and light, but they're not doing the inner work. So we're having this backslash to all this. And if we don't do this inner work, it is going to be very in our face later on.
Mm-hmm. Whenever I teach energy healing, it always comes up that I'm like, someone asks me, well, when are we done our work? You're not, is my response. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing this work, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a student, or anything in between, practitioner, we're always going to be doing our work. The work itself is know thyself. And that means excavating all pieces of yourself to see. So pulling out a piece and going, do I like this? Yes or no? I don't mind that right now. All right. We can keep that behavior, but we've looked at it. It may come up again later. For the time being, we're okay with that. We pull this one up. Oh yeah, I don't really like it when I do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so where is this coming from? Let's look at the origin. Where is that coming from? Usually it's a base fear. So when we bring that base fear up, it's like, okay, that doesn't feel good. Where's this from? What was the first instance that this happened that created this? Because that's where the programming comes. How do we deal with it? Oftentimes it's childhood stuff, which is why we have this perpetuating fears, the perpetuating judgments, and how we learn how to behave with other people is through our programming, right? So unless we're actually having this conversation, this inner conversation and the outer conversations with others to bring awareness, we can't change our behavior. We can't change how we show up in the world or how we behave with each other or interact if we don't actually look at how we are doing it now. And be accepting of the fact that, guess what? Nobody is perfect. Absolutely everyone is going to make mistakes, because that's how we learn.
Yes.
None of us learned to walk, like stood up and walked,
Yes.
right? None of us got on a bike and rode it for the first time. We all had to learn it.
The human being learn from their mistakes, not from their successes. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how we're made.
Yes.
The human condition thing.
Mhm.
And the sooner you accept that, the easier it is on you. Because I see so many people with self-esteem issues because they have perfectionism as their guiding principle. We can't be perfect. We're not made to be. And besides, what is perfect? Right?
The standards of who?
Exactly.
Everybody has different standards of perfection.
Exactly.
To the standards of who? So
And that's the work. Pull out this standard and go, is this a realistic standard? Is this my standard? Or is this someone else's standard that's been projected on me? So that's the work.
yes, totally agree. Tanys, I know you have your teaching classes and you have your academy class right now that is coming up. So like that you can talk about the class when it's coming up and what class you're having coming up.
I have a Nocti class coming up, actually. I do need to check the date on that, if you'll permit me a moment. We do have a Nocti class coming up. So Nocti is actually, it is like an add-on to Reiki because it's such a high vibration energy. So they usually say you need to at least have done Reiki 3. And I say they because I get my guidance from above. You need to have done at least Reiki 3, preferably masters. I say that because some lineages have those together. So, depending on what that is. And that is because it is like an add-on. So you need to have that base knowledge and all of the other sort of energy healing stuff, your chakras and your layers and all of that kind of thing. Because it goes much deeper into that. So I do have a Reiki level 1 class, and it is on October 28th at noon.
The next day of my-
Standard. Sorry?
The next day of my birthday.
Oh, perfect.
I already took this class, the level 1. I highly recommend it to everybody. I took it with Tanys precisely. You're gonna have a different. It is like Reiki, but it's not. It is like a different.
You're referring to Aqualead. That's
Aqualead. Yes.
So this is Nocti.
This one I haven't taken.
So Aqualead is Andromedan based and elementals. It's very connected to the elemental beings. It was downloaded by Sabine Blay a few years ago, and it heals the water in the body. So it's a beautiful energy. It's very wavy.
Soft.
It's soft. Yeah, it's lovely. And then Nocti is the galactic energy. It's the Pleiadian energy. That's the one that's kind of tingly when you feel it. So it's different properties for each. Both have their healing focus. And usually when I do healing sessions, it blends them. I ask for whichever one is for their highest good in whatever ratio. And I will feel it going through. They'll be, their heart needs a little bit more Reiki. And then, their stomach might need some Aqualead or whatever. And their, the solar plexus might need a little more Nocti. And, so it kind of, I feel the energy changing in my hands. It has its own consciousness. So it does what it needs to do.
Well, and I just want to make 2 announcements before we finish. And if you want to know more about, I am starting the movement of the healer precisely because we need to actually get out of this junk, having all this junk out of us. So like that, we actually can vibrate how we really want to do it, but more into a heal space. So I'm going to be having a workshop and a holistic fair in Edinburgh, Texas in November 18th. It is going to be live, but it's going to be transmitted online in case someone is interested. Just let me know so I can send you the links. And also I wanted to invite you all to Soulogy Fest. That is going to be in this December. That's why we were talking with Todd early. December in Houston, Texas. is in December 8th, 9, and 10. So get your tickets, guys. How about if we all, because we all have that need of that soul family and getting to know each other, not only online, in person. How about if we get together, all of us, in December, December 8, 9, and 10 in Zoology Fest?
So
You should come, Tanys.
we'll check the schedule.
Yes. And do you have something else that you would like to add?
Just stay tuned for tons of podcasts. It seems to be a very busy couple of weeks where podcasts are concerned. Watch for Twillo Talk, which is every Monday at 5. I do also Learn, Love, and Laugh on Wednesdays with Michelle. We do free readings. Every second Friday, I do one with Ramsey Cheedy called Open Mic. And that's a lot of fun too. And then I also do Bridge to the Galaxy, which is a production from the Alliance for Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Contact, where we interview people about galactic stuff. And I am just starting another series with Beyond Being Human called Explorations. And we're going to talk about all things beyond being human. So it's going to be lots of fun. So stay tuned.
Okay. So follow Twillo, what is
Lifestyle, Twillo Lifestyle Community.
Twillo Lifestyle. She have a group and also a website. And you can find her in there or by her
YouTube.
name.
And I'm on YouTube.
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We really appreciate you. And I will see you the next Friday in Zoology Network. Also, you can find us, so you can register, so you can get all the channels from all the producers. And I will see you here in Soul Talk and Zoology this next coming Friday. Tanys, thank you so much.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. It's always lovely to work with you, Monica. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Conversations with you too. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everybody.